The year was 2347, and Earth was dying slowly. Admiral Daniel Carter stood on the bridge of the defense station orbiting Earth and watched the latest reports come in. Another colony had fallen. That made 12 worlds lost in 3 years of war. Millions of humans were running toward Earth, their ships full of scared families who had lost everything. The enemy was called the Thalaxian Dominion. They were tall beings with gray skin and 4 arms. They believed that humans had grown too fast and taken space that belonged to them. So they had made friends with 4 other alien species and created the Galactic Coalition. Together, they wanted to push humanity back to Earth and keep them there forever. Daniel was 52 years old with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been fighting this war since the beginning. He had watched young pilots die. He had ordered retreats from worlds that humans had built with their own hands. Every loss hurt him deeply, but he never showed it to his crew. His second-in-command, a young woman named Amy Collins, walked up to him. She was one of the best pilots in the fleet, but today she was carrying data tablets instead of flying her ship. "Sir, the latest count from intelligence," she said. "The Coalition is gathering ships at the edge of our solar system. Current estimate is over 10,000 warships." Daniel did not react. He had expected this number. "And our fleet?" "And 800 combat-ready ships. Another 200 that can fly but need repairs. 1,000 ships against 10,000. Anyone looking at those numbers would say Earth had no chance. But Daniel knew something that the Coalition did not. He knew about the secret. On Earth below, Secretary General Lisa Grant stood before the United Earth Council. The room was full of representatives from every nation, all of them scared and angry. Some wanted to surrender. Others wanted to fight to the last human. The arguments had gone on for days. Lisa was a small woman with dark skin and a calm voice. She had led Earth through the worst 3 years in human history. Now she was about to tell them something that would change everything. "Please, everyone, be quiet," she said. The room slowly became silent. "I know you are all afraid. I know you think we are going to lose. But I need to tell you something that only a few people have known until now." She pressed a button, and a hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed a massive underground facility hidden beneath the surface of Mars. "For the past 20 years, we have been building something. We call it Project Prometheus. And it is not the only secret we have kept." The representatives looked at each other in confusion. What was she talking about? When humanity first went to the stars, we discovered something about ourselves. We learned that compared to other species, humans are different. Our bodies and minds can do things that aliens cannot do. Our reaction times are faster. Our ability to adapt is greater. Our endurance is stronger. And our creativity in war is something that terrifies every species that has studied us. She paused to let this sink in. 300 years ago, when we first made contact with alien life, our leaders made a choice. They decided that humanity would hold back. We would limit our military technology. We would fight with only a small part of our true ability. Because if we did not, we would become conquerors. We would become the monsters that other species feared. An old representative from Europe raised his hand. "Are you saying we have been losing on purpose?" "No," Lisa said. "We have been fighting with one hand tied behind our back. We have lost colonies and lives because we chose not to become the thing we hate. But now the Coalition wants to destroy Earth itself. They want to end humanity forever. And so we must make a different choice." In a dark room beneath the council building, a man named Nathan Cole watched the meeting through a screen. He was the lead scientist of Project Prometheus. For 20 years, he had worked on weapons that humanity hoped they would never use. His assistant, Chris Morgan, sat next to him. Chris was an intelligence officer who had spent months decoding Coalition communications. He knew exactly what the aliens were planning. "They are going to attack in 1 week," Chris said. "Vectros himself is leading the fleet. He wants to watch Earth burn." Overlord Vectros was the supreme commander of the Thalaxian Dominion. He hated humans more than anything in the galaxy. He believed they were pests that needed to be removed. Nathan nodded slowly. "Then we have 1 week to get ready. Is the network online?" "All platforms are in position. The fleet is hidden and waiting. The enhancement drugs are ready for distribution. Nathan closed his eyes. He had hoped this day would never come. He had built weapons of terrible power, always believing they would stay unused. Now millions of lives depended on them. Back on the defense station, Daniel received a secure message from Lisa Grant. He read it 3 times to make sure he understood. "Amy," he said quietly, "get me a channel to all ship captains, encrypted and private." Amy did as he asked. Within minutes, the faces of hundreds of captains appeared on screens around the bridge. "Ladies and gentlemen," Daniel said, "in a few hours, you will receive new orders. You will be given access to equipment and ships you did not know existed. You will learn things about humanity that will change how you see yourselves. I need you to trust me. I need you to trust Earth. What we are about to do will save our species, but it will also show the galaxy what we truly are. And that scares me more than any alien fleet." The captains looked confused, but they all nodded. They trusted Daniel with their lives. On the Coalition flagship at the edge of the solar system, Overlord Vectros received a transmission. It was a message from Earth, broadcast on every frequency. A human woman appeared on his screen. Her name was Kate Palmer, and she was Earth's chief diplomat. "To all forces of the Galactic Coalition," she said, "this is humanity's final warning. You have 72 hours to cease all hostile actions and withdraw from our solar system. If you do not, humanity will respond without restraint. You do not understand what that means, but you will. This is your only chance. Do not waste it." Vectros laughed so hard that his forearms shook. The humans were threatening him, with their tiny fleet and their weak ships? This was the funniest thing he had heard in years. He turned to his officers. "Ignore them. We attack as planned. In 1 week, Earth will be ash." But somewhere in the back of his mind, a small voice wondered why the humans sounded so calm. They were facing death. They should be begging, not warning. He pushed the thought away. It did not matter. Nothing could save humanity now. He was wrong. The warning spread across the galaxy like fire. Every ship in the Coalition fleet received it. Every alien news network played it. Species that had never met humans watched Kate Palmer deliver her message with cold eyes and a steady voice. Most of them laughed. The humans were outnumbered 10 to 1. Their colonies had fallen like leaves in autumn. What could they possibly do against the greatest military force the galaxy had ever seen? On the Coalition flagship, Overlord Vectros played the message again for his officers. They all found it very funny. The Supreme Commander of the Thalaxian Dominion stood in the center of his bridge, his gray skin shining under the lights. His 4 arms crossed over his chest. "Listen to them," he said. "They talk about responding without restraint." "What restraint?" "We have crushed them at every turn. Their restraint is just another word for weakness." His officers nodded and made sounds of agreement. But one person in the room did not laugh. Ambassador Zelkara stood near the back, her thin body tense with worry. She was Vectros's diplomatic advisor, and she had spent years studying humans. "Overlord," she said carefully. "May I speak?" Vectros waved one of his hands. "Go ahead, Ambassador. Tell us why we should be scared of these soft creatures." Zelkara stepped forward. Her species, the Velkari, were known for being cautious and thoughtful. They did not like war, but they understood it. "I have read their history," she said. "Humans are not what they appear to be. When they fight among themselves, they create weapons of terrible power. They once destroyed entire cities with single bombs. They fought wars that killed millions of their own kind. And each time, they became more efficient at killing." Vectros laughed again. "That was centuries ago. They are peaceful now. They have rules against such weapons." "Yes," Zelkara said. "Rules they made themselves. Rules they can change whenever they want. The question we should ask is, why did they make those rules? What are they afraid of becoming?" The room became quiet for a moment. Then Vectros shook his head. "You worry too much, Ambassador. The humans have lost 12 colonies. If they had secret weapons, they would have used them already. They are weak, and we will prove it. On Earth, Kate Palmer sat alone in her office after delivering the warning. Her hands were shaking. She had just told the galaxy that humanity would show its true face, and she knew exactly what that meant. She remembered the first day she learned the truth. She was a young diplomat, just starting her career, when an old general had told her the secret. Humans were not peaceful by nature. They were predators who had learned to control themselves. Every human carried inside them the ability to become a perfect killing machine. For 300 years, Earth's leaders had worked to keep this truth hidden. They had limited military research. They had created rules to hold humans back. They had taught children to be kind and gentle, hoping that each new generation would be less dangerous than the one before. But the danger was always there, sleeping beneath the surface. And now, the coalition was about to wake it up. At the Project Prometheus facility on Mars, Nathan Cole was giving orders to his team. The countdown had begun. 72 hours until humanity would have to make good on its promise. "Show me the platforms," he said. His assistant brought up a map of the galaxy. Hundreds of small dots appeared, scattered across coalition space. Each dot was a weapon platform that had been placed secretly over many years. "They are all online," Chris Morgan said. "Ready to activate on your command." These platforms were not ordinary weapons. They were designed to affect stars themselves. With a single command, Nathan could destroy the home systems of every coalition species. Billions of lives would end in moments. "We will not use them," Nathan said firmly. "They are a threat, nothing more. Vectros needs to know that if he destroys Earth, his people will follow us into death. And if he calls our bluff?" Nathan looked at the map for a long time. "Then we find out if humanity is willing to become the thing we always feared." Quote, back on the Coalition flagship, Vectros received reports from his spies on Earth. They told him that humans were moving ships to hidden locations. They told him about strange facilities on the Moon and Mars. They told him that human military officers were acting differently, like they knew something he did not. He threw the reports aside. "More human tricks. They want us to be afraid. But fear is for the weak." Ambassador Zelkara tried one more time. "Overlord, please, let me contact Earth. Let me negotiate. If there is even a small chance that they are telling the truth, we should take it seriously." Vectros turned to her with anger in his eyes. "You would have me look weak in front of the entire coalition? We have promised our allies victory. We have told the galaxy that humans will fall. I will not beg for peace from creatures who cannot even defend their own colonies. It is not begging, it is being careful." "Enough," Vectros shouted. "The decision is made. We attack as planned. And when Earth is burning, you will see that your fears were foolish." Zelkara lowered her head and said nothing more. But inside, she felt a cold fear growing. She had seen recordings of human wars. She had watched how they fought when they were truly angry, and she had noticed something that Vectros had missed. In every battle of this war, humans had retreated before they were completely destroyed. They had surrendered colonies instead of fighting to the last soldier. They had pulled back ships that could have kept fighting. It was almost like they were holding back on purpose. But why would anyone do that? Why would you not use every weapon you had when your survival was at stake? Unless the weapons were so terrible that using them would change everything. On Earth, the 72 hours began to pass. Humans went about their lives, trying to stay calm. Children went to school. Workers did their jobs, but everyone knew that something was coming. The fear was like a weight on the whole planet. In military bases around the solar system, soldiers received new orders. They were told to report for special injections. They were told that these injections would unlock abilities they did not know they had. Amy Collins was one of the first to receive the treatment. She sat in a medical chair, while a doctor explained what was about to happen. "Your body has natural limits," the doctor said. "Your brain holds back your muscles to prevent injury. Your senses filter out information to prevent overload. This injection will remove those limits. You will become faster, stronger, and more aware than you ever thought possible." "What is the cost?" Amy asked. The doctor paused. The cost is that you will feel everything more deeply. Pain, fear, guilt. Every person you kill will stay with you forever. That is why we never used this before. It turns humans into perfect soldiers, but it also turns war into a nightmare you can never escape. Amy thought about her friends who had died in the war. She thought about the families on the colony worlds that had been destroyed. Then, she held out her arm. Do it. The injection burned like fire in her veins. For a moment, she thought she would pass out. Then her eyes opened, and the world looked different. She could see details she had never noticed before. She could hear heartbeats from across the room. She could feel the tiny vibrations of the station around her. She looked at her hands and watched her fingers move. They seemed to flow like water, fast and precise. How do you feel? The doctor asked. Amy smiled, but there was something sad in her eyes. I feel like a weapon that someone finally took out of its box. The 72 hours ended with no response from the coalition. Kate Palmer sat in the communications center, waiting for any message that might offer peace. Nothing came. Vectros had ignored the warning completely. She opened a channel to Lisa Grant. Madam Secretary, the deadline has passed. Lisa's voice was heavy with sorrow. I know. May God forgive us for what we are about to do. Kate closed the channel and looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, 10,000 ships were coming to destroy her home. And somewhere inside every human being, something old and dangerous was waking up. The time for warnings was over. Now came the war. The 72 hours ended at midnight, Earth time. Secretary General Lisa Grant stood before a camera and spoke to every human in the solar system. Her face was calm, but her eyes showed deep sadness. My fellow humans, she said. We gave the coalition a chance for peace. They refused. Now we must do something that our ancestors worked very hard to prevent. We must show the galaxy what humanity truly is. I am sorry for what you are about to see. I am sorry for what we must become. Please remember that we did not choose this. They did. She took a deep breath. To all military forces, Protocol Omega is now active. May God forgive us all. Across the solar system, things began to happen. On the dark side of the moon, massive doors opened in the ground. Ships rose from hidden hangars, thousands of them. Each one larger and more powerful than anything the coalition had ever seen. They had been built in secret over decades, waiting for a day that humanity hoped would never come. On Mars, the same thing happened. On the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, in the asteroid belt, everywhere humans had gone, they had prepared for this moment. The fleet that emerged was not the small, weak force that the coalition expected. It was an army. Admiral Daniel Carter watched from his command ship as his fleet grew from 1,000 to over 5,000 vessels. And these new ships were not like the old ones. They were faster, stronger, and carried weapons that had never been used in war. All ships report ready, Amy Collins said from her pilot station. Her enhanced senses made her aware of everything happening around her. She could feel the heartbeats of her crew, smell the fear and excitement in the air. Good, Daniel said. Tell them to hold position. We wait for the coalition to enter the system. I want them to see us before they understand what is happening. At the edge of the solar system, Overlord Vectros led his fleet toward Earth with complete confidence. 10,000 ships followed him, carrying millions of soldiers from 5 different species. This was the largest military force ever assembled against a single enemy. How long until we reach Earth? He asked. 6 hours at current speed, his navigation officer replied. Vectros smiled with satisfaction. In 6 hours, the human problem would be over forever. He would burn their cities, capture their leaders, and show the galaxy that no one could stand against the coalition. Then his sensor officer made a strange sound. It was a sound of confusion and fear. Overlord. Our scanners are showing something strange. The human fleet is larger than our reports indicated. How much larger? The officer checked his screens 3 times before answering. Over 5,000 ships, and their energy signatures are unlike anything in our database. Vectros felt his confidence shake just a little. Where had these ships come from? His spies had told him Earth only had 1,000 vessels. It does not matter, he said firmly. We still outnumber them 2-1. Continue the advance. But as the coalition fleet moved deeper into the solar system, more reports came in. The human ships were spreading out in patterns that made no sense. They were not forming defensive lines. They were not protecting Earth. They were surrounding the coalition fleet from all sides. Ambassador Zelkara watched the tactical display with growing horror. She had studied human military tactics for years. What she was seeing now was completely different from anything humans had done before. They are hunting us, she whispered. They are not defending. They are attacking. Vectros heard her but did not respond. He was staring at the screens, trying to understand what was happening. His confidence was breaking apart like ice in warm water. On Earth, Nathan Cole sat in the Project Prometheus control room. His screens showed the positions of every weapon platform hidden in Coalition space. With one command, he could threaten the homeworlds of every enemy species. Chris Morgan stood beside him. Should I prepare the activation sequence? Nathan shook his head. Not yet. We show them the platforms exist. We tell them what will happen if Earth falls. But we do not fire unless there is no other choice. And if Vectros destroys our fleet, then the platforms activate automatically. Vectros knows this. I made sure the information reached his spies. He knows that if he kills humanity, his people will die too. It was a terrible thing, Nathan thought, to build weapons that could destroy entire civilizations, to hold billions of lives as hostages against attack. But it was the only way to ensure that even if Earth fell, humanity would not die alone. In space, the two fleets finally met. Daniel Carter gave a simple order. All ships, engage at will. Accept any surrender. Show no mercy to those who do not. The human fleet moved like a single organism. Ships that had been scattered suddenly came together, forming attack formations that struck the coalition from every direction at once. Amy Collins flew her fighter through the heart of the enemy fleet. Her enhanced senses made everything seem slow and simple. She could see enemy weapons charging before they fired. She could predict where ships would move before they moved. Her hands worked the controls faster than any normal human could see. In minutes, she destroyed 12 enemy fighters. Around her, other enhanced pilots were doing the same thing. The coalition pilots could not understand what was happening. Their enemies were moving too fast, reacting too quickly, fighting with skills that seemed impossible. On the coalition flagship, panic was spreading. Officers shouted reports of losses. Ships were exploding on every side. The perfect formation that Vectros had built was falling apart. How is this possible? Vectros screamed. They are just humans. Ambassador Zelkara grabbed his arm. They are not fighting like humans anymore. Something has changed them. Please, Overlord. We must retreat. We must negotiate. Vectros threw her hand away. I will not run from these creatures. But even as he spoke, more ships were dying. The human fleet was cutting through the coalition forces like a knife through soft bread. Every tactic Vectros tried was countered before it could work. Every retreat was blocked. Every attack was defeated. In her fighter, Amy Collins felt each kill like a hammer blow to her heart. Her enhanced mind remembered every face she saw in the moments before destruction. Enemy pilots looking at her with fear in their eyes. Crew members trying to escape ships that were already dead. This is what we feared, she thought. This is why we held back. We are too good at killing. But she did not stop. She could not stop. Her friends had died. Her colonies had burned. And now it was time for the galaxy to see what humanity had been hiding. Daniel Carter watched the battle from his command ship. The coalition fleet was breaking apart. Some ships were surrendering. Others were trying to run. Only a few were still fighting. Sir, an officer said. We are receiving a transmission from the coalition flagship. It is Ambassador Zelkara. Daniel nodded. Put her through. Zelkara appeared on his screen. Her face was filled with terror and desperation. "Admiral Carter, please, I beg you. Stop this attack. We will withdraw. We will accept any terms. Just please, stop killing us." Daniel looked at her for a long moment. Behind her, he could see flames and chaos on the Coalition bridge. Vectros was shouting orders that no one was following. "Tell your overlord to surrender personally," Daniel said. "Tell him to come to my ship alone and unarmed. If he does this, I will spare your fleet. If he does not, we will destroy every ship you have." Zelkera nodded frantically. "I will tell him. Please wait. Please give us time." The transmission ended. Daniel turned to his crew. "All ships, cease fire. Give them 10 minutes." The guns went silent. The human fleet held its position, surrounding what was left of the Coalition forces. 10,000 ships had entered the solar system. Less than 4,000 were still flying. In those 10 minutes, the galaxy changed forever. Everyone who watched the battle learned the same lesson. Humanity had been holding back, and now, nothing would ever be the same again. The 10 minutes passed slowly. Admiral Daniel Carter stood on the bridge of his command ship, watching the remains of the Coalition fleet float in space. Broken ships drifted past his windows. Escape pods filled with wounded aliens called for help. The battle had been short, but terrible. His crew worked in silence. No one celebrated. No one cheered. They had just shown the galaxy what humanity could do, and none of them felt proud. "Sir," an officer said quietly, "transmission from the Coalition flagship. Overlord Vectros is responding." Daniel nodded. "Put it on screen." Vectros appeared before them. He looked different now. The confidence was gone from his eyes. His 4 arms hung loose at his sides instead of crossing over his chest. He looked like a male who had just learned that everything he believed was wrong. "Admiral Carter," Vectros said. His voice was rough and tired. "I accept your terms. I will come to your ship alone and unarmed. But I must know something first. Ask, why did you hold back before? Why did you let us win for 3 years when you could have destroyed us from the beginning?" Daniel thought about the question. It was the same question that every alien in the galaxy was probably asking right now. "Because we remember what we used to be," he said. "Long ago, humans fought wars against each other. We killed millions of our own kind. We built weapons that could end all life on our planet. And we used them. We burned cities. We poisoned lands. We became monsters." He paused, remembering the history lessons he had learned as a child. "After those wars, our ancestors made a promise. They said we would never become monsters again. They limited our weapons. They taught us to solve problems with words instead of violence. And when we went to the stars, we held back even more. We did not want other species to fear us. We did not want to conquer." Vectros listened without interrupting. "But you pushed us too far," Daniel continued. "You destroyed our colonies. You killed our families. You came to burn our homeworld. And so we had to break our promise. We had to show you what we really are." Vectros lowered his head. "I understand now. I was a fool." "Yes," Daniel said simply. "You were. Now come to my ship. The war is over." An hour later, Vectros stood in the hangar bay of Daniel's command ship. Human soldiers surrounded him, their weapons ready. But they did not need to worry. The great overlord was broken. He had no fight left in him. Daniel met him there personally. "Overlord Vectros, you are now a prisoner of the United Earth Council. You will face trial for the crimes committed against human colonies." "I expected nothing less," Vectros said quietly. "But what of my people? What of the Coalition? That depends on them. If they accept peace, they will be treated fairly. If they continue fighting, they will face the same fate as your fleet." At that moment, across the solar system, the remaining Coalition ships were making their choices. Most of them surrendered. Their captains had seen enough. They did not want to die fighting an enemy they could never beat, but a few ships tried to run. They turned and flew toward the edge of the solar system, hoping to escape back to Coalition space. Amy Collins and her squadron intercepted them. She flew her fighter alongside a fleeing cruiser, her enhanced eyes scanning its hull for weak points. Her targeting computer showed her exactly where to shoot to disable the ship without destroying it. "Coalition vessel, this is Earth Fighter Squadron 7, she said through her radio. "Stop your engines and surrender. You will not be harmed." The cruiser's response was to fire at her. Amy moved before the weapons could touch her. Her enhanced reflexes made the enemy shots seem slow and predictable. She spun her fighter away from the attack and returned fire with perfect accuracy. Her shots disabled the cruiser's engines. The ship drifted helplessly in space, unable to flee or fight. "Squadron 7 to command," Amy reported. "Cruiser disabled. Ready for capture." "Acknowledged," Daniel's voice replied. "Good work, Lieutenant. Return to base." Amy flew back toward Earth, but her mind was not on the victory. She was thinking about all the aliens she had killed today. Her enhanced memory showed her their faces, over and over again. Enemy pilots who had died because she was too fast, too skilled, too deadly. "This is the price," she thought. "This is what it costs to be what we are." On Earth, Secretary General Lisa Grant addressed the planet once more. "The battle is over," she said. "The Coalition fleet has been defeated. Overlord Vectros is in custody. Earth is safe." She paused, and her expression became serious. "But we must not celebrate too much. Today, we showed the galaxy something that we have hidden for 300 years. We showed them that humanity is capable of terrible violence. We showed them that when we stop holding back, no one can stand against us." She looked directly at the camera. "Some will see this as a good thing. They will say, 'We have proven ourselves to be strong.' But I see it differently. I see a species that had to break its own rules to survive. I see children who will grow up knowing that their parents are capable of mass destruction. I see a galaxy that will now fear us, not respect us." Her voice became softer. "We won this war. But we also lost something. We lost the image of ourselves as a peaceful people. We lost the hope that we had evolved beyond our violent past, and we will have to live with that loss forever." On Mars, Nathan Cole shut down the control systems for Project Prometheus. The weapon platforms remained in place around Coalition space, but they were now in standby mode. They had not been fired. "We did not need them," Chris Morgan said with relief. "No," Nathan agreed. "Our fleet was enough. But the platforms will remain. They are our insurance against future attacks." Chris looked troubled. "Is that the kind of species we want to be? One that threatens to destroy civilizations?" Nathan did not answer. He did not have a good answer. He knew that the platforms were necessary, but he also knew they were wrong. They represented everything that humanity had tried to leave behind. In the hospital ward of Daniel's command ship, wounded soldiers were being treated. Humans and aliens lay in beds side by side. The doctors did not care who was an enemy and who was a friend. They treated everyone. A young Thalaxian soldier woke up to find a human nurse standing beside his bed. He was afraid at first. He expected anger or cruelty, but the nurse just smiled and gave him water to drink. "Why are you helping me?" the soldier asked. "I came here to destroy your world." "Because you are hurt," the nurse said simply. "And hurting people need help. That is who we are." The soldier did not understand. How could humans be both the monsters who had destroyed his fleet and the kind people who were now healing his wounds? He did not know that this question was the whole point. Humanity was both things at once. They were capable of terrible violence and also great kindness. The choice of which to show was always theirs to make. As the day ended, Earth looked out at the stars. The immediate danger was over, but a new chapter was beginning. The galaxy knew the truth about humanity now. There would be consequences. There would be fear and distrust. There would be difficult years ahead. But for tonight, families held each other close. Children slept safely in their beds, and somewhere in space, a broken overlord sat in a prison cell and wondered how he had been so wrong about such a small species from a small planet. The war was over. The real work was just beginning. 6 months passed after the battle. The galaxy was different now. Every species that had heard of humanity spoke about them with a mix of fear and wonder. The story of how Earth had hidden its true power for centuries became the most talked about subject in the known universe. On Earth, life slowly returned to normal. The hidden ships were placed in storage. The enhanced soldiers received treatment to reverse their changes. The weapons factories went quiet. Humanity tried to go back to being what they had been before. But nothing was really the same. Secretary General Lisa Grant traveled to the Galactic Assembly, a meeting place where representatives of hundreds of species gathered to discuss matters of importance. She was the first human to speak there since the war. The Great Hall was filled with beings of every shape and size. Some had scales, some had fur, some had bodies of metal and light. All of them watched Lisa with careful eyes. "I know you are afraid of us," she began. "I know that what we showed you has changed how you see humanity. Some of you think we are monsters, who should be destroyed before we become too powerful. Others think we should be avoided completely. I understand these feelings." She paused and looked around the hall. "But I want to explain something. Humanity did not hide its strength because we wanted to trick you. We hid it because we were afraid of ourselves. We know what we are capable of. We have done terrible things to each other throughout our history, and we made a choice, centuries ago, to become better." A tall being with blue skin raised his hand. "Then why show us now? Why release this power?" "Because you gave us no choice," Lisa said. "The coalition attacked our homes. They killed our families. They came to destroy our planet. We tried to warn them. We begged them to stop. But they did not listen. And so we had to defend ourselves." Another representative, a small creature covered in feathers, spoke up. "What happens now? Will you use this power to conquer?" Lisa shook her head firmly. "No. Humanity has no interest in ruling over other species. We want to live in peace. We want to trade, explore, and learn. We want to be your neighbors, not your masters. But how can we trust you?" A deep voice asked from the back of the hall. "You hid the truth for 300 years. How do we know you are not hiding more?" "Oh. 10. Lisa considered the question carefully. "You cannot know for certain. Trust takes time to build. But I can promise you this. As long as no one threatens Earth, humanity will continue to hold back. We will limit our military. We will follow our own rules, and we will work every day to prove that we are worthy of your trust." The hall was silent for a moment. Then, one by one, representatives began to nod their heads. Not all of them believed her. Not all of them trusted her, but enough of them were willing to give humanity a chance. Back on Earth, Daniel Carter retired from military service. He was tired, not in his body but in his soul. He had commanded the battle that saved humanity, but he had also ordered the deaths of thousands of aliens. That weight was heavy on him. Amy Collins visited him at his home by the sea. She was still struggling with her enhanced memories. Every night, she dreamed of the faces of those she had killed. "Does it get easier?" she asked. Daniel looked out at the waves. "No, it does not get easier. You learn to carry it, but it never becomes lighter." "Then how do you keep going?" He thought about the question for a long time. "I remind myself why we did it. We saved our species. We protected our children. We gave humanity a future. That does not make the killing right, but it gives it meaning." Amy nodded slowly. She understood. The guilt would never go away, but she could learn to live with it. On Mars, Nathan Cole made a decision. He went to the United Earth Council and asked them to destroy Project Prometheus. The weapon platforms that could threaten coalition homeworlds should be dismantled, he argued. They were too dangerous to exist. The council debated for days. Some agreed with Nathan. Others said the platforms were necessary as protection against future attacks. In the end, they reached a compromise. The platforms would remain, but they could only be activated by a vote of every member of the council. No single person would have the power to destroy civilizations. Nathan accepted the compromise, but he was not happy about it. He knew that as long as the platforms existed, there was a chance they would be used. And that thought kept him awake at night. In a prison cell on Earth, Overlord Vectros waited for his trial. He spent most of his time thinking about his mistakes. He had been so confident, so sure that humans were weak. How had he been so blind? One day, a human guard came to his cell with his meal. Vectros had seen this guard many times before. He was an ordinary man. Not tall or strong, with a friendly face. "May I ask you something?" Vectros said. The guard nodded. "Sure. Why did your people hold back for so long? Even when we were killing you, even when we were destroying your colonies, you did not show your true strength. Why?" The guard set down the food and thought about the question. "Because we know what we are. And we are terrified of it too." Vectros did not understand. "You are terrified of yourselves?" "Yes. We know that we can become monsters. We have been monsters before, in our past. And we work every day to make sure we do not become monsters again. The rules we made, the limits we accepted, they were not to fool you. They were to protect us from ourselves." Vectros sat in silence as the guard left. For the first time, he began to understand. Humans were not pretending to be weak. They were fighting against their own nature, and that made them more impressive than he had ever imagined. In the offices of Earth's diplomatic service, Kate Palmer prepared for her new job. She had been appointed as humanity's first ambassador to the wider galaxy. Her task was to build relationships with species that had never met humans before. It would not be easy. The news of the battle had spread far beyond the coalition. Distant civilizations were watching Earth with interest and concern. Some wanted to be friends. Others were already planning how to defend themselves against a species they saw as dangerous. Kate knew she had years of hard work ahead of her, but she also knew it was important work. The future of humanity's place in the galaxy depended on proving that they could be trusted. Chris Morgan, the intelligence officer who had decoded coalition communications, discovered something strange in the weeks after the battle. There were signals coming from the edge of the galaxy. They were old signals, from a civilization that had been watching everything. He brought his findings to Lisa Grant. "Someone out there has been observing us," he said. "They watched the war. They saw what we did." Lisa looked at the data with concern. "Do we know who they are?" "No. They are far beyond coalition space, beyond anywhere we have explored." He showed her the translation. It read, "We have seen what you are. We hope we remain friends." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. There were things in the galaxy older and more powerful than humanity. And now they knew about Earth. "What do we do?" Chris asked. "We wait," Lisa said. "We continue building peace with the species we know. And we hope that whoever is watching us likes what they see." At the Memorial for the Fallen, built on a hill overlooking a quiet valley, Lisa stood alone one evening. The names of every human and alien who had died in the war were carved into stone walls that stretched for half a mile. So many names. So many lives ended. And for what? For survival. For the right to exist. She thought about everything humanity had been through. The hiding. The restraint. The terrible day when they finally showed their true face. And now the long road ahead, trying to rebuild trust with a galaxy that feared them. It was not the future she had wanted. But it was the future they had. She looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, new challenges waited. New friends and new enemies. New chances to prove that humanity was more than just warriors. "We are what we choose to be," she thought. "Not what our nature forces us to be. And I choose to be hopeful." She turned and walked down the hill, leaving the memorial behind. The night was quiet. The stars were bright. And Earth, small and blue and beautiful, kept spinning through the darkness, unbound, but still reaching for peace. The story ends.